sex, find it.
As soon as the sun goes down and it starts to get dark, you know, you have them hitting the streets.
They've been busting the Johns, impounding their cars. I used to make, like I said, $500 and better a night. Now, if I see $500, this is good.
You gotta look where you're going, Vince.
It's my neighborhood. I live here. I don't want them here. If that's what it's going to take to keep them out of the neighborhood, fine.
If prostitution is the world's oldest profession, then procuring a prostitute must be the world's oldest pastime. Well, in New York City, it's also becoming one of the most expensive, especially for the hundreds of men trapped in a police crackdown, which, depending upon who you talk to, is either cruel and unusual punishment or the best plan yet for ridding the city of some of its moral decay.
Son, I'm not stupid. I'm a hooker. I'm not stupid.
There are an estimated 5,000 women selling their bodies for sex today on the streets of New York. They brazenly strut their stuff at busy street corners at all hours of night and day. And in neighborhoods throughout the city, the plague of sidewalk flesh peddling has become unbearable.
We usually find condoms all over the place. They defecate behind the garbage container, they urinate all over, in the open. They don't even hide it.
They sit on my stoop, they do drugs. The quality of our life is horrendous.
Even children are frightened to go out and play in neighborhoods where prostitutes ply their trade.
Every time you go out, there's lots of them there, and sometimes they're bothering you in the street, they're asking you for things, or they're bothering people, your fathers.
The customary police response to alarm over prostitution is to round up the usual suspects, the hookers themselves. About 3,400 women are arrested for selling sex in New York every year. But business continues. So police are now targeting Johns, figuring if they can't stop the supply, maybe they can scare off the demand. Every week, somewhere in the city, policewomen dressed in provocative streetwear walk out onto a corner and wait for something to happen. And they don't wait long. Like fish to the bait, within minutes, men in cars begin drifting up and making overtures to the decoys. Just as quickly, police, listening from nearby cars, swoop down and net their unsuspecting prey. They handcuff the men, take their photographs, then haul them off in a police cruiser. It happened over and over and over again during a two-night sting operation on the Lower West Side of Manhattan last month. Each man was charged with patronizing a prostitute, a Class B misdemeanor punishable by 3 months in prison and/or a $500 fine. But these men got a little extra jolt for their alleged indiscretions. If they're convicted, they will also lose their cars.
The department is taking the stance that in order to bring the point home, that it's not worthwhile to engage in patronizing a prostitute, we're going to hit the individual harder by taking their vehicles away.
Since NYPD began seizing vehicles in prostitution cases 2 years ago, they've confiscated about 280 cars. They recently got a brand new $45,000 Lexus with just 310 miles on it. On this night, the cars included a new Lincoln Mark IV and a 1993 Mercedes-Benz, driven by a man police identified as the CEO of a company that leases the vehicle. He was arrested for allegedly patronizing a prostitute, and the Mercedes, worth more than $35,000, was seized. If he's convicted, the city will go to court to take ownership of the car. Some say harsh punishment for something many consider a victimless crime.
Well, that's in the eyes of the beholder. For you, it may not be a severe problem, but for the communities, it is a severe problem.
This is like untying a shoe with dynamite.
Civil liberties lawyers decry the seizure as unconstitutional overkill.
To take a car that could be worth, a full year's salary over something that minor is really disproportionate and would violate the Constitution.
What they're doing is imposing summary punishment by taking the car based merely on an accusation. And it's very reminiscent of the old Western justice, where first they hung them and then they gave him the fair trial.
Tina is 30 years old. She says she's been hooking since she was 15 and has an arrest record in several states. Tina says she used to make at least $500 a night, but this evening in the Hunts Point section of the Bronx, business is slow, as it has been a lot lately, thanks in large part to the police crackdown.
You know, the guys are scared, especially if they see a girl that's clean cut and doesn't look like she does drugs. The first thing they think is, I'm a cop.
They're afraid of losing their cars, too?
Oh, yeah. That and their jobs and their wives and everything, because a lot of them are married. You know, a lot of them are married men, family men.
I don't think you ever really cut down on the total amount of prostitution. It just shifts around.
Dr. Joyce Wallace heads the Foundation for Research on Sexually Transmitted Diseases. She and her workers patrol the city every night, reaching out to prostitutes,
Hi.
preaching safe sex.
Meanwhile, use the condoms. Okay, always, for everything, even oral sex.
And testing for AIDS.
She's got good veins.
Yeah, I never shot them inside.
She's got good, healthy veins.
1 in 3 tests come up positive.
Maybe, maybe you have a good chance of not being infected, and we hope so.
Wallace sees prostitution as a problem, but from a different point of view. In her eyes, the primary victims are the hookers themselves. 70%, she says, were sexually abused as children. 95% are addicted to crack or some other substance, and most are desperate. And as long as men pay for sex, she says prostitutes will supply it.
60% of the men who use prostitutes do not have a steady sex partner. 40% do. And the 40% who do have a steady sex partner say that their sex partner won't do for them what happens on the street.
The seizure of the cars, the busting of the johns. It sounds like you're saying it's a sham.
It's a sham, sure. Next month it'll be back to normal. Or 2 months or 3 months. Another area will take over. Men who want sex find it.
But others have little sympathy for the hookers or their customers, especially in places like Hell's Kitchen, where outsiders from New Jersey and Westchester drive the streets searching for sex, not caring about the impact on people who live here.
Their johns are more to blame than the prostitutes. If they weren't here wanting this service, the prostitutes would not be here. And a lot of these guys are just people in fancy cars coming around here picking up prostitutes. And they would never allow this happening in their own neighborhood where they live.
Police say seizing cars in prostitution cases may be harsh, but it may also make life a little less harsh for people now forced to live with a problem they want no part of.